Mm, My name is Jordi Padilla Delgado. I'm talking to you from the Catalan Costa Brava in Spain, and I am the current senior co-chair of the Diverse Sexuality and Gender section of the Society of American Archivists. Please be welcome to the 37th annual meeting of the section, and thank you all for being here to know more about the world of the LGBTQIA2S plus archives and archivists. The meeting consists of two parts, and we now begin with a brief reminder of the annual report. After the report, we will enjoy the presentation of two different experiences related to LGBTQIA2S+ oral history projects by two young but very interesting professionals, David Advent and Carmela Furio. First of all, I would like to introduce you who we are in the current steering committee. Nickelin Thomas as past co-chair, Lou Hines as steering committee member, Max Flowers as steering committee member, and Joyce Daviola as a SAA council liaison with the help in a short period of Michelle Gans, and myself as senior co-chair. Okay, here are the activities and goals achieved the last year. Point 1, we are currently 237 members in the section and have held 2 meetings of the steering committee in October and December. Not too much, but we didn't need to have more than 2 to solve the dots. Maybe in the future we could have more, but you know it's hard to all get together. I think it's more important to have a fluid and frequent dialogue, whether it's through virtual meetings, email, or as AA Connect or any other channel. Point 2, finally, and after a 7 years process, the SAA Council approved the updated section's standing rules. Through this update, we have adapted the section rules to the current SAA standards. The changes primarily affect the steering committee member terms and the creation of 2 new positions, social media liaison and programming coordinator. I invite you to consult the rules. They are available on the section's microsite. Point 3, the launch of the section's blog and newsletter, Archives in Rainbow, AIR. The first post was published in October, and we now have 11 posts and nearly 2,000 views, half of which are thanks to post number 8, dedicated to the major lesbian archives in Los Angeles. AIR averages 150 views per post, and the blog aims to be a hub for information and insight into the world of LGBTQIA2S+ archives and archivists, as well as a meeting place for the section members and anyone else interested in the topic. Points 4 and 5 refer to the relationship between the section and other society committees and programs, such as the Diversity Committee and the Early Career Members Program. We have collaborated with the Diversity Committee, expressing our concern for the difficult situation we are facing because of the repressive policies by the federal administration, you know. And point 6 refers to the webinar of young professionals we are holding today to better understand the work of young archivists in relation with LGBTQIA2S+ archives and collections. Okay, now we can move on to the projects for the next year. Point 1, the consolidation of archives in Rainbow. Point 2, a coordination program to harmonize the section's presence on the internet through its 3 channels, the microsite, the blog, and the Facebook page. By the way, if any one of you knows who currently is managing the Facebook page, please tell them to contact us to include them in the coordination program to act all together in a coordinated way. This program will be coordinated by our future social media and web liaison. Point 3, a webinars program. We have also an open position for a programming coordinator. Points 4 and 5, we would like to continue collaborating with other committees and sections of the society, as well as extend it to other external sister organizations, such as the Rainbow Roundtable of the American Library Association and the Sex Effective and Gender Diversity Archives and Archivists Working Group of the International Council on Archives. I'm also one of the coordinators of this late group and would be happy to collaborate. And finally, point 6, we would like to hear about you, about your proposals and suggestions. What would you like the section and its work to be? Perhaps a podcast or a scholarship to attend next year's Archives and Records conference? I don't know. It's up to you to suggest. We are approaching to the 40th anniversary of the section. We can also delve deeper into the section's history and its contribution to the society. Okay, we are moving on to introducing the candidates for the open positions in the steering committee for the next year. A.R. Flynn is the candidate to be our junior co-chair and elected senior co-chair. A.R. is project archivist for the Glenn Miller collections at University of Colorado Boulder, received their MLIS in 2024 from the University of Denver and their BA in History and Russian from Amherst College in 2020. Flynn's work focuses primarily on the music of the big band era, with an emphasis on highlighting the stories of individuals often underrepresented in archives. Flynn's research interests center on the sustainability of community archives by and for community members, and the research on this topic appeared in the spring 2025 newsletter of the Society of Rocky Mountain Archivists. Flynn served as the president of the SAA student chapter at the University of Denver and was awarded the Dean's Award for Commitment to Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, and Accessibility for their work with the Park County Local History Archives on Chinese communities in Park County, Colorado, at the turn of the century. Originally from Massachusetts, Flynn has resided in the West since 2021 and enjoys reading and gardening. Kate Barnes is the candidate to be our social media and web liaison. Kate is archives librarian at Regis University in Denver, Colorado. Their experience includes work at History Colorado, Special Collections and Archives at the Denver Public Library, Arvada Historical Society, Sage Singer Chorus for LGBTQ+ Elders Archive, and the Colorado Golf Hall of Fame Museum. Over the years, they have taught courses at colleges and universities in archival research, oral history, gender and women's studies, social justice, feminist theory, digital storytelling, and writing. They identify as genderqueer, and their research interests include LGBTQIA2S+ history, gender in the 19th century US West community archives, serving older adults, and open education resources. They have an LAIS from the University of Denver, along with an MA in Literature and Cultural Studies from the University of California, San Diego. Please remember that you can vote until July 15th if you haven't already and are a member of the section. And we are glad to introduce you our two earlier career members, Madison Newport and Lark Wilson. Madison is interested in serving on the committee as a chance to connect with SAA community, further professional development, and also because he's passionate about the core values of fostering an open and inclusive culture of creativity, collaboration, and experimentation. These core values are in alignment with the values in her personal practice as she serves full-time in a public library archive while pursuing an LIAS. And Lark is primarily interested in preserve and promote queer history in his professional practice. He wants to get involved on a wider scale. As an early career professional, this is a perfect opportunity for him to get involved and learn how to support the growth of queer archives. Thank you very much. I wish you a very happy and successful period serving the section. Okay, and now I invite Joyce to for her words, please. For your words, Joyce.
All right. Hi, everyone. Okay, so thanks for coming to this business meeting. First thing I'll let you know is that this is my last year on council. Yay. So this section will be we'll be having a new council liaison for the next 3 years. Those, as I understand it, those appointments have not yet been finalized. So, but we'll definitely let you know. And my plan is to meet with the new council liaison for this section and my other sections and groups so that there is, more of a smooth transition and so that they are, um, they know what's currently going on with each section. And so that will help, them become comfortable. So there's that, and let's see. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, so as you know, the annual meeting is coming up. That's from August 24th to the 27th. The it's Sunday to Wednesday this year. On Sunday, those are all the pre conference programs, which are all in person except for the SA Council meeting, which is hybrid. Um, a few of the things that are a few of the things that day are the repository tours, the community archiving workshop, the business archives section colloquium, and the essay council meeting, August 24th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. If you've never been to a council meeting, of course, I do encourage you to attend it. It is long, but if you once the agenda is published, you can kind of like see perhaps like at what point do you want to attend, um, and so you just have a better idea of what some of the conversations that we have and how we have them. And if you are interested eventually in becoming being on council, then definitely encourage you to attend. Okay, so even though SA staff has yet to post the May council meetings online, there are a few highlights from that meeting. So council ratified, sorry, ratified council's approval of the funding request by the Native American Archive section. That funding in the amount of $15,505 be included in SAA's fiscal year 2026 budget to support annual meeting travel scholarships and memberships for tribal archivists and memory workers, and that future funding be available for the next 2 years through SAA, while efforts occur to establish stable funding for this initiative through the SA Foundation. We ratified several public statements, and I think I can provide you that. Those are online. We approved edits to the SA Governance Manual, which has been in process for the past 2 years. You know, if you've ever read the governance manual, it's a bit of a monster, and so you really can't edit one section because all the sections of the governance manual um, impact other sections. Um, so I definitely know a lot about the governance manual. Um, and let's see, the SA membership committee charge was to increase the number of membership committee members, and we approved the standards committee recommendation to assign responsibility for maintenance of the guidelines for standardized holdings, counts, and measures for archival repositories and special collections libraries to the collection management section. And we appointed Selena Ortega Quiolero, a second-year council member, about to be in her third, to the executive committee for the 2025-2026 term. And so appointed second-year council members Allison Clemens and Michelle Gans will serve on the nominating committee for the same term. Real quick regarding section health. As you might know, their council members have been conducting an assessment on section health, and this is continuing. We have a new iteration of the section health group in progress. The difference is that the group is made up of council members and folks who applied to be part of the working group. And so that's going to be going on for the next 2 years. This particular iteration is focused on recommending options for creating a new system for sections that is flexible over time, and sustainable in terms of funds, staff, and volunteer time for all volunteers, and administrative maintenance. A lot goes into um, the section health system that we currently have, and so we just want to be able to make sure members are getting something out of their participation in sections, and that sections have available funding. And also to sort of relieve the labor of everyone that is involved, in order to maintain and keep sections operating. I do recommend participating in any future conversations, surveys, and or focus groups about section health. Um, and of course, to communicate with me, as you know, for the rest of my term, which ends at the end of August. And of course, eventually your next council liaison about your concerns or ideas. Um, and so yeah, so that's pretty much all that's coming from council. However, I will pose this question to you all as well. There's a lot been, as you know, there has been a lot happening in the world, and uh, I will speak only for myself. Being on council, I've tried. I've tried to communicate to council about, you know, about concerns that the LGBTQ community might have. Not every single person. We're not all, we're not monoliths, but especially for those of us who are in the South, in the U.S., um, there are challenges, and so folks in this group and in others, and just from my own perspective, being in Texas, I have communicated to council, um, you know, what I can, and in hopes that council, as being the governing board of this professional organization, um, that they proactively, um, actively and respond to members who communicate regarding, what they want to see SA do, or at least at the very least what they want to see council do. And that was part of actually the diversity committee, um, um, part of the May council meeting. The chairs um, attended, and what Jordy was talking about earlier about the concerns that a lot of the members and a lot of the sections that we have, wanting to see more transparency from council. And so that is on there, that has been communicated, and I will just encourage, is not our responsibility as, members of the LGBT community, to use our time and labor to educate council on everything, but um, you know, I would encourage everyone, and I would totally be there with you as well, to not let them just push this aside. And I'll end with that. Well, actually, one more thing. Just feel free to communicate with me directly about anything. And even though this is my last term on council, if anything, I'll have more agency, no longer in council, to push back. So still here for y'all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Um, we want to thank you, your commitment, your engagement with society, with the section. Also, you have been for me an excellent council liaison, and we count on you for the future's works. So you can go very far away of the section.
Never. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So if you want to make some any question to Joyce, you can do it now. Okay, so finally, the more interesting part of the meeting, the two presentations. In alphabetical order, we are due to introduce David Advent. Mhm. Here. Please, Lou, can you introduce us, David, and his presentation, please?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, I'm Lou, they, them. Just introducing David Advent briefly. They're a scholarly communications librarian at Utah State University, focusing on research, publishing, and impact. He recently graduated with his MLIS from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he worked for the LGBTQ plus oral history program. David couldn't be here today, but we have a recorded presentation, which is called Visibility is Survival. Changes to the LGBTQ plus oral history inventory at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Thank you, Lou. Yes, David can be with us because right now he's driving from Wisconsin to Utah to assume his new position as assistant librarian in the libraries of the Utah State University in Logan. But we have the video. The video, yes. Here and here. Okay. Do you see the video? Please tell me, are you seeing the video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sound. I'm gonna have to go, I think.
I'm not getting any audio.
Okay. Do you hear the video?
No,
No? Any one of you?
doesn't
No.
look like it.
Okay.
This happens sometimes when trying to play videos through a like through a screen share sometimes, and I don't remember the exact way that it gets fixed, but you have to like do a bunch of extra tech stuff.
Okay. Well, we can try another thing. Now?
No,
And
still
now?
I'm not getting
No.
any sound.
Okay. Maybe if I try another thing.
Hello, everyone.
And
My name
now?
is David Advent. Sorry that I can't
Yes.
join you
Yes,
today
perfect.
for the meeting. When you're watching this, I'm probably somewhere in Nebraska or Wyoming and driving a U-Haul truck because I'm currently in the process of moving to Utah for my new position as a scholarly communication librarian at Utah State University. So I'm very excited to be talking with you all today about some of the previous work that I did at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I recently graduated with my library science degree. I worked for the LGBTQ plus oral history program as one of my student jobs during my time at UW-Madison. And I presented a poster at the SAA conference in 2024 in Chicago. And I'm happy to share some of that work that was completed in 2024, but also share some updates that we've done since then, since the presentation in 2024. So the title of the poster is Visibility is Survival, Changes to the LGBTQ plus Oral History Inventory at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And briefly, I'm just going to talk about the important work that the oral history program completes or does as to preserve LGBTQ plus oral histories and stories in the Madison community and also as part of the university. I'll talk about some of the recent changes that we've made to make our inventory more publicly accessible to researchers who will use the inventory for their own research. I'll also talk about our narrator compensation policy that was recently implemented as of January 2025. And then I'll also talk a little bit about where the program is going and some future updates and new directions that the program is taking. So I will share the poster here so you can have some visuals of the poster that I presented in Chicago. So one of the biggest things that, as part of the oral history program, we record stories with narrators and interviews with narrators. And then after that, we process those interviews in Otter AI, which is a AI platform that transcribes audio files. And student workers then create a transcript of that audio. They line edit it, make sure the narrators are tagged correctly, and making sure that the audio and the transcription match. One of the more recent updates now is that we actually use Whisper, which is a local, the data lives only on UW-Madison servers. It's not a cloud-based platform like Otter AI. So at the time that I presented this poster, we used Otter AI, but as of May 2025, we now use Whisper. And there were some reasons for that. We had some narrators express privacy concerns with having their important and sensitive stories in a cloud-based AI system like Otter. So having the ability to collaborate with our digital commons and digital office at UW-Madison to have the data only live on UW servers was a really important milestone and progress point for us to make sure that the data and the stories from our narrators is protected. But when we were using Otter AI, we recognized that there was the opportunity in these interviews for potentially offensive content, especially in older interviews that were completed. We have some from the 90s and 80s, and we recognized that we wanted to provide some sort of content warning in line with what other oral history programs at different institutions had done previously. So I worked with my supervisor on creating that content warning, drafting it. And the important thing about our oral history program is that it's a collaboration between UW-Madison and the local Madison community, we have a LGBTQ plus community center called Outreach, and it's a collaboration between those two offices, as well as any other local community members who want to be involved in preserving LGBTQ plus stories. So it had to be passed through UW-Madison, the UW-Madison committee, and then also through the outreach committee, as well as with our other local members. And after going through those processes, we were able to implement that content warning on all future stories that we were transcribing and working with our narrators. And now student workers are also backlogging the content warning into our previous stories as well. And this just recognizes the evolving landscape of preserving oral histories, especially those about marginalized identities. And we wanted to fully protect our narrators in their stories as well. One other important aspect that we've worked on is increasing public access and visibility of the program to researchers. So before all of the oral histories lived on our digital commons site called UW Minds, and they are still there, but the way that you filter and search through that program can be quite confusing. So we created a Google Sheets inventory that is publicly available. If you follow the QR code on the poster, you can click on the inventory and see who the narrator is, how long the actual story audio file is, the link to the digital commons site. But importantly, what I added were project notes, and this was a point where researchers could Control F and find any particular story that was important for their research. We have some that were about Wisconsin civil rights in 2012, and researchers were able to find those in our inventory more quickly than if they were going just through UW Minds. So this made our program more accessible. It helped researchers continue with their research projects, and they can also filter and search through different topics that we might have. And this is a living inventory, so it keeps getting updated each time a story is processed, and it will show if we have the transcript, if we have the index and abstract and other types of materials available for each narrator. So it's a living document. It keeps getting updated, and that will also help our researchers be able to complete their research quickly and succinctly as well. Finally, one of our biggest achievements is we have now instituted a narrator compensation policy. So the way this works is that after a narrator completes their interview with one of the staff, we give them a $50 gift card in recognition of the gift of their time. And the way that we frame the narrator compensation is not like, if you do this interview, you get a $50 gift card. We frame it as thank you for participating in our program. This is our recognition of you taking time out of your workday or taking time out of doing something else and talking with us and giving us the gift of your time. And that language of the recognition of the gift of a narrator's time is really critical to the narrator compensation policy. And we viewed it as a way to help get more narrators into our program who might not be able to, they might not be able to take off of work time, or they might be otherwise busy. And this gives an avenue to get more and more narrators and have a more diverse representation of LGBTQ plus experiences in our program with that. And, the narrator compensation policy is pretty new. It was implemented in January 2025. So we're still assessing how it's working with our narrators, and we are currently working to do some assessment of how is the narrator compensation actually influencing more narrators to participate in the program? Is it changing the types of stories that are being told? So we're really wanting to look at that assessment level moving forward. Obviously, since I've moved to a new position, I am not part of those conversations anymore. But when I left, that was where those conversations were looking towards. So the overall broader theme of the changes that we've had here is really emphasizing the protection and visibility of LGBTQ plus stories in Madison, especially in our current era. My cat is going to join us apparently. Especially in our current era where harm against LGBTQ plus communities is on the rise, we see our program as a really important way to preserve those stories, especially Wisconsin LGBTQ plus history. But we're also hoping that these changes will give other community-based archives a way to identify new narrators, a way to get more narrators into the program, and also as a way for community archives to advocate for their program as well, particularly through the changes in the inventory that makes it more accessible to researchers. This is a really critical way to emphasize the value of community-based archives, and that's where we've been looking forward to advocate and communicate the importance of the work that we do in a tangible and realized sort of way. Thank you for your time today. Again, I apologize that I'm not able to be there with you synchronously today. If you do have any questions, you can email me at wisc.edu. So this email up in the top left. I will have a new email soon, but I'm hoping that will get sent out so you can contact me there with any questions. I really appreciate your time today, and I hope everyone is doing well. Take care.
Okay. Really interesting. We have seen the importance of having a good inventory. A good inventory is always important. And now we go to the presentation by Carmela Furio. Please, Max, could you introduce us Carmela and her presentation?
Absolutely. Carmela Furio is an early career archivist with a background in accessioning, processing, and digital projects. They hold an MLIS from the University of Iowa and BAs in English and Italian. They established the LGBTQ Iowa Archives and Library's digital history repository, LGBTQ Iowa Narratives, where they currently manage the collection's processing and digital preservation needs. They occasionally serve on SAA's podcast working group as a producer for Archives in Context. Carmela is presenting one bit at a time, initiating digital preservation and queer community archive oral history projects.
Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Carmela. And I do have a couple things that I'd like to share, if that's okay, Jordy?
Yes, please.
Lovely. Okay. One second, this always happens. Here we go. Okay. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Is it purple or green?
Green.
Lovely. Okay, I will have to unshare for a second. I have multiple, here we go. So this is the poster that I shared at SAA. It has the exact same title as this presentation, One Bit at a Time, Initiating Digital Preservation in Queer Community Archive Oral History Projects. And so for a bit of a background about Lyle, Lyle is the LGBTQ Iowa Archives and Library. We are a nonprofit, all volunteer-run community archives based out of Iowa City. And our goal is to essentially collect, preserve, maintain, and share queer history within Iowa, across the state, to all residents, all Iowans, even if they're no longer living in Iowa. And the main reason we were founded is because we understand that essentially coastal queers and urban queers have long overshadowed the history of queer life. Urban centers like San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, they are at the forefront of a lot of queer history and a lot of discussions. And so a lot of time people forget that we exist in the Midwest and we exist in rural settings. And so at the core of our mission is, a very deep understanding that LGBTQ people have always lived, we've always struggled, and we've always thrived in Iowa. And so our experiences, as small town, rural, and Midwestern queer folk are crucial to the history of the queer community across the US. And so we established our community archives. We also have a lending library, and then we have our oral history program, which I revitalized and created a digital repository for in 2024. And so this presentation here is about a lot of the technical work that I did to make it feasible. So it might be a little dry, might be a little boring. It's not as fun as, talking theory, but essentially what we realized very early on is that a lot of digital preservation work is not simple to understand for folks that don't have major LIT programs or don't have a degree. And as a place that is volunteer run, we do have people with MLISs who work here, but we also have a lot of community volunteers, students, retirees, and the like. And so we wanted to make sure that we could continue this project in a safe and ethical manner, which means preserving the materials. But when it comes to digital materials, that can get a little tricky. And so essentially this poster goes through planning for digital preservation, understanding the good enough theory, which is out of a digital power white paper, which posits incremental growth, so starting where you can and then slowly getting better, and then finding solutions for small staff, low budget work. And so essentially what this poster says is that we are using a Google Drive for our front end, instead of thousands of dollars spent, which we don't have, on cloud storage and or a hosted university storage. We have everything in our dark storage on 2 hard drives. And we make sure to keep materials in lossless formats. We maintain preservation metadata. We have 3 separate copies in different locations. And we essentially have modified all of those really high level workflows that are presented through models like the OAIS model, which is this right here. And we just adapted it for volunteers to be able to understand by rewriting what some of the words here say. And then we also modified our NDSA levels. For those not familiar with digital preservation, the NDSA levels are essentially 5 areas with 4 levels to them. And those areas discuss the different aspects of digital preservation. So metadata storage, the like. And then level 1 is the bare minimum ethical base that you should be meeting to make sure that your materials are ethically sustained and safe. And then 4 is perfect, you can't do anything better. And so we modified that to essentially become a to-do list for what we can attain. And so we changed the language, and instead of saying there is documentation, we specifically said what kind of documentation, where it will live, and who will be putting it in. So essentially it becomes a guideline to a workflow. So this is what I presented, again, very, very technical. And essentially what this work did was create the scaffolding for the project. So it built out our workflows, it built out our digital preservation models. It also built out, our collections development policy and our rules for who would be performing what in terms of volunteers and project leads and the like. So that was shared at SAA. And then I have this, which is that green one, which is why I asked you. So this is an update basically on the project that was shared at the Midwest Archives Conference this past, I think it was April. And it's called More Than You Should Chew, Approaches to Processing Large-Born Digital Collections in Under-Resourced Community Archives. So what happened after I presented this in August? Well, in October, we got 100 oral histories donated out of the blue. And that was not something we'd prepared for and built for. So this was us figuring out how we can essentially make the best use of the small amount of resources that we have. And so we essentially created what we call DIY digital archives, which is it's basically what I just talked to you all about, but we created more thorough documentation for training so that we can have volunteers and student interns and practicum students come in and essentially be able to very quickly, easily look through this workflow orientation and these guides and do remote work. And so that's our first remote intern right here, Murray. We love Murray. He's a wonderful ally to the community and supports us a lot. And so from there, we fleshed out different standards and different workflows and found the AI that works best for us. And so essentially how our workflow goes is that we start off with AI transcription. We were jumping between Otter and another option, and we decided to go with the other option, which is Restream, because Restream does not force us to log in, is unpaid, and deletes our data within like an hour after it's done. So what you do is you upload it and you upload your file and it spits it back out as a .txt file, which is just raw text. And then you have like a certain amount of time to download that before it's wiped. And so then we copy that txt file and we place it into a Word doc, and then that Word doc is then assigned to a volunteer who then quality checks it. And then in their quality checking, they are able to learn a lot more about the interview. They can write us a quick summary. They can give some suggestions for subject terms. And then volunteers who are working more on the metadata side of things can come in with that information given to them by the transcriber and produce their Dublin Core metadata. And then from there, we put everything in our front-facing access once it's been approved, and then we copy all of those files and download them to our dark storage. And then essentially that workflow is done. And then the last aspect of it is the celebration in the community and how people are able to interact with these materials and then go out and create their own materials and you know, be active members within the queer community in Iowa. So a lot of information. But this is what our oral history page looks like. And as you can see, it is very bare bones. All of our materials are essentially documents that have been shared, and we don't have fancy things like archive space. We're looking into Omeka, but we're also figuring out our budget for that as well. And so at the end, a very quick glance of what our finding aid looks like. So we have a README file, which makes it more accessible for those who are not necessarily used to working with. I need to share that. Sorry, apologies. This is what it looks like. We have the this README file here, which essentially helps folk who aren't used to archival research understand what they're looking at. So it's a collection level, you know, finding a description, but we're not using those terms. We're using terms that the populace might more easily understand. Then we have our general collection, which are the interviews that we create. We have the president of the ALA actually here. I did this interview, so go check it out. Pretty fun. And then we have the Loki collection, which is the collection with 100 oral histories that was donated to us. So as you can see, we have very basic subjects that we pulled from Homosaurus, your basic Dublin Core metadata, and then how it works is it links out here to a Google Drive folder that has the materials. So that's the project. I just info dumped a lot, so apologies if I made your eyes roll up in your head a little bit. But that's Lynn, that's Lyle, and that's the work that we're doing out here in Iowa.
Okay, wow, thank you very much, Carmela. Please, if you have any questions to Carmela, you can write in the chat, or you can simply use your microphone.
Yeah, that was great. I just want to say I'd love to talk to you later because I mean I have a paid archives job, but I also do, a lot of work with an unpaid community archives. So I would love to pick your brain later.
I have a question, Carmela. What do you think, in your opinion, what will be the impact of the artificial intelligence in all that process you have studied?
It depends, I guess, on how it's being used. I hate AI. I don't like AI. But what I specifically don't like is LLMs, the language learning models, the chat GPT-esque things. Um, I think having safe AI that you can trust, that works for you, that can create a transcript and then having a human go back over it is something that does save time, especially when you can't afford to pay transcribers and you have over 300 hours of material to work with. Um, and you're all volunteer run, and volunteers give like 2 hours a month, so not a lot of work, like not a lot of time available. Um, so I can see it really helping with oral histories with that. I mean, at MAC, the Midwest Archives Conference, there was another oral history project that was out of like one of the private universities in, I think it was Northern Illinois, maybe it was Dominican. And they were also doing a project where they utilized AI for a first round transcription interview, first round of uh, first round to transcribe an interview, and then had people go over and double check it. Um, I think essentially what it's doing is replacing a step that already exists but is not replacing the people. So when you're dealing with transcriptions, you always have quality check happen. And so if you just make the human the quality checker, it it helps a lot in terms of speed and just sanity. Because a lot of these interviews are over an hour. Some of them are 2.5 hours. Some of them have multiple parts that add up to 3 hours. So it's a lot. Um, one downside to it really is that if you don't want your like your AI models to be creating metadata, which we at Lyle have decided no, that's not something we will do. We do not want AI to write our metadata for us. We It takes a bit of extra time. Normally, when somebody's transcribing something, they learn something very, very easily. Um, they learn a lot about the person and what they're talking about, and they can very quickly write up the metadata. When with AI, you don't have that. And so then you still have to go back and read through that. So that's why we found that step for having people who do QC leave notes and or write the metadata themselves if we train them on Dublin Core, which is relatively easy to train people on, honestly. Then that helps. But yeah, very long-winded answer, but there's a lot of pros and cons. I see it creating a lot of issues. I see it fixing a lot of issues. I see it making a lot of people very angry, and I don't blame them.
Thank you very much, Carmela. Is there any more question? No. Okay. Well, I have told you that we have 2 early career members for this year. We had a third candidate, I think is here, Liz Rose, but unfortunately we were allowed to have 2, but I encourage Liz to participate in the section, and if you want to be participating, please tell us. Anyone can join us in the activities, in the blogs. Please propose us your thoughts for the working of the group, because we have sense because of you, because all the members of the section. Okay, and we are approaching the end of the meeting. Before that, I want to remind you. No, this not. I want to remind you this. Okay. All those registered to attend in person the Archives and Records Conference in Anaheim in August, that they can attend session 704 titled Sustaining Queer Archival Projects in a Repressive Political Climate. Kate Lars will be present and participating. I think Kate is with us. Please, Kate, could you please provide us with some details about the session?
You're asking me, right, Jordy?
Yes, I want to share. Optimize. Okay. Do you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. Please tell us a little of the presentation.
Yes. We're very excited to have, I think it's down to 4 people. Let's see, 1, 2, 4. Unfortunately, we had one member who was let go from their job, so they can't be a part of the panel, but it's a good mixture of folks from community archives, folks from museums, and folks from academic archives, all talking about the challenges in continuing queer projects through this unique cultural historic moment that we find ourselves in, where it's very anti-DEI and anti-LGBTQIA plus. So please come and join us and join into the conversation. We'd love to hear from anybody else who's struggling or not struggling, and share as many resources as we can on that Wednesday at the conference.
That's perfect. Thank you and congratulations, Kate. I think there is also scheduled a conversation lunch. Lud, would you tell us about that? I am not sure if you finally decided to go ahead with the conversational lunch. Is Lou here? Well, in any case, please check the conference program to stay up to date on the topic and sessions.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I think there is also scheduled a conversational lunch about LGBTQ archives. I'm not sure if you went ahead with that project, Lou.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't have anyone to partner with, but I
Okay,
submit
but
thing
never
online.
mind.
I've heard back about it, so I don't know what the status is.
Never mind. Maybe next year. Okay. And that's all, folks. With these final questions, we can officially close the 37th annual meeting of the Diverse Sexuality and Gender section of the Society of American Archivists. Thank you all to be here, and let's continue to queer the archives in our daily work. See you virtually or online or in person, in my case, virtually, at the next Archives and Records 2025 SAA Annual Conference in Anaheim, California, in a month and a half. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.